Because of this, I'm gonna show you all like the stack of books that I have read this month. I can't even carry it. I won't be able to carry it. Sounds actually physical help. I don't know who but. Yep. Those are all the books I've read this month. Okay, I can't carry it, but let's jump into my reading wrap-up. Hi guys, welcome back to a new video of mine. So, if you don't know me, I'm Emily and I love talking about books. Okay, so in today's video, I will be showing you all the books that I read in April, which I just had the worst reading month ever, like truly ever. And I don't think it was the books, it was more like a me problem, like hi, it's me, I'm the problem, honestly, because I just wasn't feeling really good this month. I was really honestly depressed, and I think that kind of added in things, and then I was in a reading slump, so it was just not good, you know, with like the rating of the books, which I like defines what kind of book month you had, whereas like the amount of books I've read, because I've read a lot of books, but a lot of them were through audiobooks, because that just really helps when you're in a reading slump, because I just did not want to pick up a book. But yeah, I think that was the problem. I never wanted to pick up a book, and I just prioritized other things, and then I also just did not care about any of the books because I was depressed and just not caring, you know what I mean? So it was just not a great month, but I still had some interesting reads and a lot of new books, and I just love reading books so I can have an opinion about the books and know the story about the books, because I'm always just so curious. So the more I read, the more I know, I feel like. So that's always really nice when I read a lot of books. So that's what's helping me. But let's talk about all the books I read in April. I decided to divide this month into the genres and not in the timeline that I read the books, because I feel like that just made more sense with the amount of books I read. So we're gonna start with fantasy, then we're gonna go into romance, literal fiction, whatever, general fiction, I don't know, and then thriller at the end, because that was the most books, or the biggest genre this month, but also the most mid, you know? So anyways, and yeah, in total I read 29 books. I've got a total of 3 physical copies with me, so that is fantastic, but it's fine. I did make a lot of reading vlogs for a lot of the books, actually. One is still coming out later after this video, so be excited for that one, because those were some of the best books I've read this month. Actually the best. So that's exciting. It kind of really saved me, and I'm hoping you're kind of out of my reading slump. I don't know, I'm just not feeling the best, but yeah, a little bit homesick, I don't know, just yeah. Anyways, okay, let's start. I've got all my notes here and we're just gonna start. I always have like a Notion page with all the books and like trying to put in all my thoughts while I'm reading, but I forgot so many. So before I started the video, I was like going through all the books and I like added like 10 more books. I always hate myself when I do that. But anyways, let's start with the fantasy books. I started the Throne of Glass series this month, so I read Throne of Glass, Assassin's Blade, and Crown of Midnight. Listen, I know people say that it gets good with Air of Fire, so I'm hoping it will get good this month when I'm just reading Air of Fire, but those 3 books were not it. Like, they were just not it for me, because it just felt so pointless and I was just not connecting with the characters, I feel like. Again, is it the problem of the book or me? You know, I don't know. I just didn't feel a connection too much. And also, when you read Throne of Glass and then you read Assassin's Blade, you know what's gonna happen in Assassin's Blade, and you're like, what? Why? should I read the Start of Class before? But also, if you read Assassin's Blade before Start of Class, you just don't care about the characters, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm just like, why does Assassin's Blade even exist? I don't know. But I listened to the audiobook of Assassin's Blade, and that felt like a really good idea because it made the whole deal a little bit quicker and shorter and just more enjoyable. But yeah, so I gave Throne of Glass 3 stars, Assassin's Blade 2 stars, and Crown of Midnight 2 stars. But it did end off with a great cliffhanger, so hopefully it will get better. And I'm missing the fantasy part of the series, but it's gonna begin now, I think, so I have high hopes. And those were all the fantasy books that I read. Those books did not make me motivated for fantasy, so yeah, whoopsie now. Yeah, anyways, okay, let's go into romance. So I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Lathanter, which was one of my favorite books this month because it was just a great summary book with great characters, great plot. It was taking place in Texas in like a ranch kind of style. That was so fun. I love the whole like setting and stuff like that. I feel like that's so important in books. Like the setting has to be good, and in this one it really was good, and it was just really fun. And like the woman was the bodyguard protecting the guy because there were some threats towards him, and that was really fun. And the banter was great, and the writing was really fun. So I really enjoyed that one, and I gave it 4.25 stars. Then I read Part of Your Word right after, and that one was even better. That was probably my favorite romance of the whole month because I just love Daniel. He was a great book boyfriend. Again, loved the small town setting part, big town. That was just really great, and yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And I feel like the struggles were really realistic and stuff like that, so that was also really good, and I gave that one 4.5 stars. And I'm excited to read more by Abby Jimenez, but I want to get the physical copy, so couldn't do that right now. Then I'm currently reading Mr. Wrong Number. Today's the 30th, so I'm gonna finish it today. So I wanted to include it. I'm probably gonna give it 3.5 stars because I'm almost done with it. Just not fully finished, you know what I mean? But I am almost done, and it is Berlin Painter. It is fun, close proximity because they're living together. Well, she moved in with her brother, and the brother has a roommate, and that's the love interest. So that's kind of fun. It is just a little bit cliche and a bit cringy and stuff like that, but it is still funny, you know what I mean? Nothing crazy, but a fun rom-com. Then I listened to okay, somebody was in front of my window, so we had a little pause. But anyways, so then I listened to the audiobook of Red, Red, Royal Blue because I needed some comfort books, and I don't have any books with me because I'm currently not at home, you know, living the international student lifestyle in Santa Barbara. I'm home next month, and I'm so excited. But yeah, so I couldn't reread any of my comfort books, which was so sad. But I listened to the audiobook of Red, Red, Royal Blue, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I just love Alex and Henry so much. They were so fun. I love the whole politics, London and US vibes, and first president of the US falls in love with the Prince of the London of the Prince of England, and it was just everything I needed, and 5 stars. I love it so much. Then I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which I have the physical copy. Well, the physical copy is not the cutest, but I tapped it a little bit, and it was really fun college romance on the reading blog for that one as well, which was really fun, showing my college life and hers and that whole fun life. I want to read more of the off-campus series. It was just nothing groundbreaking, you know what I mean? But I didn't expect it to be, you know? for what it was good. The only thing is that the spicy scenes were a tiny bit weird, but yeah, it's fine. And I love the character development of Hannah and Garrett. That was really good in this one. So 4 stars for this one. Then another hockey romance. I was kind of in a hockey vibe this month, which is kind of not really me, but I read 3 hockey books. So the second one was Him, which was also by Al Kennedy, which is kind of fun. It wasn't after that book, but it was later in the month. But that one was just everything I needed in the moment, because I read another book beforehand and I was really, really sad and just really negative but similar, and that one was just pure comfort. Him was just funny. It was really spicy. Oh my god, I wish it would have had a little bit more plot and less spice, but it was fun. It was a really great Kindle read, and I love the characters and it was really comforting. So I really liked that one. I gave it 4 stars and it was great. And yeah, then I read Solitaire by Alice Oseman, which was also a YA contemporary fiction. I wouldn't call it a romance, or it's not supposed to be a romance, but there were a lot of romance things. Like, the romance part was huge, but also just the self-development or character growth was great. I love Tori. She's the sister of Charlie from Heartstopper, which is just fantastic. I also rewatched Heartstopper this month, which was just so comforting read. I was really in a comforting month, or wanting to read comforting books and TV shows, but I didn't have any. It's fine. So Solitaire, it was about Tori, who's like Charlie's sister, and she's going through a lot, kind of struggling with her mental health, and yeah, just living the high school vibes. It was really, 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 really relatable, which was kind of fun, kind of sad, but yeah, just a really good book, I feel like, and I want to read more of Alice Oseman this year, definitely. And yeah, I love the Nick and Charlie crumbs. Those were some of the best parts of the whole book. Then I listened to the audiobook of Clap When You Land, which is, I think, also YA contemporary fiction about these 2 girls, and they are sisters, but they don't know it because one is growing up in New York and one is growing up in Middle America, I think. I think it was the dumb rep, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But they're growing up, they don't know each other, but then the dad dies on the plane ride to the other daughter, and so they meet when there's a funeral. They figure out, hey, I have a sister. But the whole thing was just kind of sad because it was talking about when dad died and how they both coped. And once they met, the book ended so shortly. Like, the book could have had easily 100 more pages, but it just stopped, and I was like, where's the good part, you know? It was just too short for me, but it was so good, and I gave it 3 stars. And yeah, then I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which was on my TBR for a really long time, so I was really glad I read that book now, finally. And it was a really good book. It was really interesting. I was scared I was gonna get bored or honestly triggered, but I did not, so that was good. It was not inspirational, but just like things you shouldn't do, I feel like. And I love the 2000s vibes in New York. This girl is just struggling with her mental health, and so she decides to get a lot of sleeping pills and just sleep for a year. And that's what she did. But yeah, you see that it's not the best thing to do, but I wish the ending would have been a little bit longer. Again, it was just too short, so that was the only thing that I was kind of like missing, you know what I mean? But otherwise it was great. Otherwise it was really good, and I gave that one 4 stars. So then I listened to the audiobook of Everything I Know About Love by Jolie Alderton. She herself wrote that memoir, and was the narrator of the audiobook, which was really good. I love that she was British. Something about British audiobooks is just fantastic, so that was really fun and honestly great, and I really liked that aspect. And otherwise it was just really fun hearing her stories. And even though I'm not in my 20s and dating and stuff like that, which is the book mostly about, it was still interesting to listen to and hear about, and I think it's just a book for everybody to read. So 4 stars for that one as well. I feel like most of these books I could have given 1 star because I just did not care, but I know it wasn't a bad book. Like, it was well written, it was interesting, just, you know, yeah. So that was that. Then Lessons in Chemistry, which I'm so glad I finally read it. I'm kind of sad I don't have the physical copy of it, especially the UK version, because it was just so pretty and I really want to have that one. But that one was really great. It was one of my favorites of the month. Again, I loved Elizabeth. It is a historical fiction book, but it felt more like an literal fiction. There was not a lot of history in the book, you know what I mean? So that was really fun. It's about Elizabeth, who is this chemist in the 60s, so you know, there are not a lot of female chemistry people in the world, so she's really struggling. And yeah, you see what she's going through, what she has been through, and then that's this whole romance aspect, and it's just really sad but also funny, and just, it was really interesting. And just go read the book because it was really good, and that one actually made me feel things for once in a lifetime in this month. So 4.5 stars for that one. Yeah. Then I listened to the audiobook of All the Light We Cannot See, which this one is a true historical fiction book. It's basically about those 2 children, I don't know, it's coming of age, so they start off young and then they get older, who grow up in Germany and in France when the 1940s, so when the whole Second World War Nazi stuff is happening, and how they were both dealing with it. And especially the boy in the story, I don't remember his name, but he was then he went to a, like, I don't know the word in English, but to a camp where like young boys are getting trained to be basically Nazis, and he's helping the Nazis. So he's kind of a bad guy in the story because he is helping the Nazis because he knows a lot about radio and stuff like that. So he's helping the Nazis with that, like detecting people who help France and England and stuff like those countries, you know what I mean? And then they cross paths, but it was really interesting. But I was just always waiting for the wow moment, and it never came really. And I just didn't really feel connected to characters, but it was super interesting, and I gave that one 3 stars. And the writing was really good, and it was interesting, but I don't know. And then I read, wait, where's my book? I have actually 4 physical copies. Where did I put them? Oh. I just finished the book last night, so we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zavine, which I just love the cover so much. Again, annotated a little bit, and it's about Sam and Sadie, who are like best friends since childhood, and something happened, they don't speak for years until they are literally in Harvard and the MIT. Props to them. And it takes place in the 1980s, 90s, 2000s. So that was really interesting, and they together develop video games, which is something I don't really know something about. I don't play video games and stuff like that. Never did. Just, you know. But it was really interesting reading about it. It made me kind of like want to play video games, if you know what I mean. But yeah, their friendship was just so beautiful reading about, but at the end it got really, really sad. Like, not in like a, oh my god, something crazy happened and it got sad in that way. It was just kind of heavy and kind of sad, and I don't really know how to describe it, but yeah, it was really interesting, and the characters were really great, so that was really fun and really interesting, and I loved all the political points it talked about. And there was one super crazy scene and I was so stressed reading, so that was really good, and so I really liked that one, and I gave it 4.25 stars. Yeah. Then I read my favorite book of the month, which was really unexpected, or not unexpected, but I didn't think it would be my favorite of the year or the month, but it was Bear Town by Frederick, Backman. I have literally now read 3 books of him, and every single one has been a 5-star. Isn't that crazy? That was the one book that made me feel things, that made me want to read, that got me out of my reading slump for like 3 days, so that was fun. And I just really love that book. It's basically a literal fiction. It's about this town, and it's a hockey town in Sweden, and everybody cares so much about hockey. And hockey is really important, and they're trying to build their infrastructure through hockey, and if the town wins the hockey games, And so they are really having a lot of pressure on those hockey players. But then one of the hockey players sexually assaults or rapes a girl from the town, and she goes to the police and tells them, and it's just like the aftermath of all that, and it's super interesting. All the characters are really fleshed out. The writing is beautiful. The amount of tabs I put into that and underlined things, and god, I just love this book so much. And my favorite character of the month was in this book, Benji. If you know, you know. So I'm just obsessed with the book, and I'm so excited to read the rest of the series. But this was really, 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 really good, and I just loved it so much. So that was that. And those were all the other genres, and now we go into thrillers or mysteries, which were a lot, but a lot of them were mid. So we're starting off with the best one, and that was The Secret History. I don't know if that is like literal fictional mystery thriller, but I think it's like a, something. And that one was also really good. It was so well written, and it was really interesting, and the characters were also super interesting. But I always compared it to If We Were Villains, which I know is like my mistake, but I just preferred If We Were Villains. I'm sorry, it was just the one thing in If We Were Villains that I'm just obsessed with, so... And that book didn't have it as much, so that was kind of sad. And yeah, and it was still really good. It's about the group of 6 friends, and then some stuff happens, and it kind of just derails and goes crazy, and it's dark academia. It is really good. I really liked it, and the writing was really good, but just not as good as If We Were Villains. I'm sorry, but yeah, 4 stars. And then I listened to the audiobook. I got inspired, and I listened to the audiobook of If We Were Villains, and I just loved it. 5 stars. One of my favorites. Again, I'm just obsessed with the book. It was a reread, and it was really fantastic and a lot of fun, and I just love all the characters so much, and I just love how we were right into the story with If We Were Villains, and the whole friend group already existed, versus in The Secret History, when just Richard just kind of comes to the friend group, versus in If We Were Villains the whole friend group already exists, and I preferred that by a lot. So that was, I feel like, better. But yeah, both of the books are really good, and I just love dark academia, so really nice. But yeah, rest of the thrillers. I read The Wife Between Us, 2 stars, really boring. I don't remember any of it. Reckless Girls, really good, 4 stars, really fun summer thriller. I would totally recommend reading it in the summer. The setting was perfect, you know, deserted island in Hawaii, which was just a beautiful setting, and it was really interesting, and the plot was kind of crazy and confusing and just what the fuck, but really good. Then Watching You by Lisa Jewell. Lisa Jewell is my favorite thriller author, so that one was really good. 4 stars. Every single thriller by her made me tear up so far in a thriller. Like, that's fucking crazy. But yeah, so that one was really good. It was super interesting. Loved the UK setting. Really good. Then we have The Woman in the Library. Worst book of the month. 1 star. Really bad. Super boring. Weird COVID stuff. Weird writing. Don't read it. Just bad. Then we have The Book of Cold Cases and the Sundown Motel by the same author, Simon James, I think. Kind of really similar books. If you've read the books, you know what the plot twists are, and it was just too similar, I feel like, and just really not my type of thriller, I feel like. But not bad writing, and definitely not bad books. Both of them were 3.5 stars, so really not bad. It was just not totally my vibe. Then I read Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Crazy stuff happened. I listened to it as an audiobook, and it was just crazy shit, honestly, and I need to reread it to, I think, fully understand it, because I did not understand a single thing that happened in the book, because it was so, what the fuck happened, but it was still really good. And then I listened to the audiobook of In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. Loved the UK audiobook again. I'm just obsessed with that. It was a good thriller. I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, but I really liked it. Gave it 4 stars. It was really, really, really wintry, so it wasn't the perfect vibes, but still really good. Then I read The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine, and it was super similar to The Housemaid, and I know The Last Mrs. Parrish existed before The Housemaid, and by Freida McFadden, and The Housemaid is really popular right now, and I don't know, I prefer The Housemaid because there was just more going on. It was better, it was more interesting, and it was just more crazy. So Last Mrs. Parrish kind of fell flat for me. Could have been because The Housemaid, so I don't really know. And then I listened to the audiobook of That Perfect Done by Freida McFadden, and that was just a great thriller. Really fun, really interesting, crazy plot twists, typical Freida McFadden kind of vibes, a little bit vorhersehbar. I don't know the English word, so we're just gonna ignore that. But yeah, I think those were all the books I read. I really was pushing through at the end because those were just not the best thrillers I have read. So yeah, and those were all the books I have read in April, and I'm really tired now. That was a lot of talking, and if you stuck till the end, great job. We're done. We talked about all the books I've read, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, thank you so much again. It was a really long one, but yeah, be sure to check out all my reading vlogs that I did this month if you want to see more thoughts. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, I hope I see you in the next one, and goodbye. Let's make a thumbnail. Oh.